Welcome back to the Royal Chronicles. I'm Hannah here with Luke.
Hello.
Glad you're joining us today.
Back again.
Yes, thrilled to be here. I think we've done a little better this time. The episode's not too far apart from our last one. But anyway, before we get into it, of course, thank you for being here. Thank you for sharing your time. We really hope you've been enjoying this, kind of our new season that we're in. If you're not already, please subscribe, follow us on our social media. We're on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter. I'm probably missing something, but TikTok. There we go. We're on TikTok. But aside from that, just subscribe, follow us for updates on our upcoming episodes and some of the other fun stuff that we're doing. Teen Shenanigans, our other little show that we do, which we're mostly starting to post on YouTube. That's the more gossipy side of the royal world. If you're into that sort of thing, head on over there, check it out. But for today, let's just get right into it. Luke, today is a very interesting character.
Yeah, this one was actually, or at least this royal family was a request from a listener.
Mm-hmm. We just had a request to do something about the Belgians. And so today we're starting with Leopold I of Belgium.
Yeah.
And this is an interesting cat because he was born in what is now modern day Germany. Mm-hmm. He then was a citizen of Britain and ended up becoming king of the Belgians. And you sprinkle in there at one point, he could have been the king of Greece, but that's a whole nother story. But yeah. I mean, that is quite
he was almost the king consort or potential king consort of the UK.
Oh, that's right, through his wife. But that is a very unique life story. So let's get started with the beginning.
Okay. So he was born in the Duchy of Coburg. His family is the Saxe-Coburg-Saalfelds. So they have kind of all of their main holdings in their name. Mm-hmm. But Coburg is the particular one they were living at when he was born into the family. Kind of a rough time because this is during the the Napoleonic Wars and all sorts of turmoil across the continent.
Where he fought
during his young life.
The Russian army, correct?
Yes.
You throw in another country.
Mm-hmm. He was all over Europe.
My goodness. That's what you call a true
multinational career.
A continental person.
Yeah. Citizen of the world.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, kind of all over the place to start with, from a small duchy in Germany, was in the Russian army. After Napoleon's defeat, he moved to London, where he was introduced to the Princess
Charlotte.
Princess Charlotte, Princess of Wales. Well, no, she was never Princess of Wales.
She was Princess Charlotte of Wales.
Yes.
Not the Princess of Wales. Yeah, I know. There is a distinction. You're right.
It's the order that can mess you up. But yeah, they met, and shortly after, she agreed to marry him. And so his, like I said, minor noble from Germany, goes off to the Russian military, comes to England, and then he's marrying the future heir to the British Empire. So big changes.
I read supposedly that Princess Charlotte, her father really favored and wanted her to marry William, the Prince of Orange.
William of Orange.
Yeah, and that I guess she liked Leopold better, supposedly.
Yes. There are some stories about that she just found William of Orange incredibly boring. Which tends to be, oddly enough, a complaint about the whole House of Orange going back for a ways. They'll send somebody over to, court the heir to a throne or something, and they'll just say, oh, he's so boring. Happened a couple times, but this is the latest one I know about.
That is such an odd
It is, isn't it?
Tidbit. Yeah. But yeah, so anyway, she ends up with Leopold. And at this point, she's the heir presumptive to the British throne. And you have Leopold from, as you say, kind of would you say a lesser or more minor
definitely
dynasty?
Yes,
sure.
A much smaller house from a minor duchy in Germany.
Yeah.
But a family that increasingly gathered powerful connections through marriage.
Mm-hmm. Well, in his case, very sadly, when he did marry Princess Charlotte, it was by all accounts, a happy marriage. But unfortunately, after having, I think, a miscarriage and a stillbirth, she passed away about a year and a half after they were married. That's a very short.
Yeah. The death of Princess Charlotte was a very shocking event in Britain, because they were kind of like the bright hope for the future. She and Leopold were very popular with the people, very outgoing, and just kind of, they looked so much better than what they had at the time, which was the, mad king. And then the Prince Regent, who had just made himself so unpopular. And then suddenly they get married. Everything looks so great. She's going to have a baby. And then she and the baby die.
It's tragic.
Yeah. So it was a shock for the whole country. And Leopold, by all accounts, never really got over her.
Well, it makes sense because she passed away in 1817. He didn't remarry until 1832.
Yes.
So he wasn't in much of a rush.
And that was very much a necessary political marriage to sort of shore up alliances for him in his new position as the King of the Belgians.
Makes sense. Well, and he needed heirs.
Yes.
So.
And also, by all accounts, that wasn't an unhappy marriage. Just lots of people say that he wasn't really looking for anyone else after Charlotte died until it became politically necessary.
Well, that's sweet.
Yeah.
But let's get into, because this fascinates me. As I said at the top of this, he's what we consider now to be German born. He fought in the Russian army. He became a citizen of Britain, married to the heir to the throne. She passes away. And then what is this whole situation with being basically offered the throne of Greece?
So the Greek War of Independence that they fought shortly after the Napoleonic Wars wrapped up ended with them trying to build a Western European style state. So they wanted to have a royal family like everybody else had. And so they just kind of put an offer out to the houses of Europe saying, we need a king who would like the job. And he was offered it, and he was probably the preferred candidate because he had the backing of the British. But he turned it down because he thought it didn't seem safe enough.
It's so funny.
Not a secure throne.
It's like, you're going to hire a king. Who do we hire to be king? And who turns that down? Well, I guess not everybody wants to be king of
and
certain
then
places.
It worked out pretty well because right after that, he was offered the throne of Belgium.
Right.
And he took that one.
Yes. Okay. So let's get into that a little bit because, he wasn't Belgian and yet he's the king, now the King of the Belgians.
True. But like I said, this was a pretty traditional kind of thing to happen when a state would try to declare its independence. They would look for a recognized member of royalty to come and rule. So to give them legitimacy.
So supposedly there was also monarch shopping among the Belgians because supposedly there were some people that wanted to offer the position to, get it, William, Prince of Orange.
Yes.
How random is that? Twice in one lifetime.
Yes.
William
Two-time
Orange
loser.
loses the girl and the throne.
Yeah.
That throne anyway,
But, that's also would have been a little complicated because he was the ruler of the Netherlands, which is right next door. And they weren't looking to, join in a political union. So that just probably would have come with too much baggage. Yeah. Whereas Leopold, like I said, he's been all over the place. He's friends with very important people, but he doesn't really have any baggage.
Oh, really?
No commitments that he has to hold on to and take over their job as king.
Well, that's helpful.
Yeah.
So apparently the accession took place in 17th of July, 1831. And it sounds like it was a very...
Which is just... like barely a year after they had become independent. So it's all fast.
Right. I read that his well, I don't know if it was a coronation or just like an installment, an enthronement, is considered to have marked the end of the revolution and the start of, the kingdom of Belgium, because they now have a king. But it sounds like it was just kind of a fairly easygoing affair. The regent resigns, stepped aside, and Leopold puts on the uniform of the Belgians, and he's made king, and that's it.
Yeah, and this is all just more fallout from the French Revolution and then the Napoleonic Wars. So Belgium had been known as the Spanish Netherlands, and it had been the sort of Catholic section of the Netherlands that had stayed as part of the Spanish Empire. And their revolution was able to succeed because after the Napoleonic Wars, Spain really went into its imperial nosedive, where it just started shedding territories like crazy.
Oh, yeah. A purge, you might say.
Basically, it just became much more unstable.
So it sounds like the beginning of Leopold's reign wasn't particularly easygoing, in the sense that there was an economic crisis, and there was also a lot of tension between liberals and Catholics, I guess.
The conservatives.
The liberals and the conservatives, I guess, within the church itself, or...
Yes.
Okay.
And within the political parties.
Yeah. Okay. That makes sense. So it sounds like it was kind of a rough start. Let's say.
Little bit.
Yeah. But how exactly did he handle that?
So one of his, I guess you'd call it a platform, kind of like in an election, was that he wanted to encourage economic growth in the country to make themselves more, sustainable. Because as part of the Spanish Empire for so long, they had been treated kind of almost like a colony where, everything they did had to be, they had to get permission from Spain. And it was all aimed mainly to serve the interests of the Spanish Empire, not for the people of Belgium. So just kind of needed to get some investing into the country, get some local industry. He supported the founding of their first railroad, which was a big important step for them in just trade and being connected to the rest of the continent. So he was sort of the let's get everybody to work and let's bring in some industry to the country.
So switching gears just a little bit, I read, and I'm trying to recall the details of this. What is this that he was known as a political marriage broker?
A little bit. Once again, like I said, his family is just like a minor duchy in Germany, but they increasingly married into powerful and important royal and noble houses. And through his connection to the British royal family by his marriage to Princess Charlotte, he wasn't still married to the, heir to the throne, but he was still seen as kind of a member of the family. And then a couple of years later, his sister married the Duke of Kent. So then he was a part of the family again. And this sister became the mother of Queen Victoria.
Oh, I didn't realize that.
Through her life growing up, he was someone who, oddly enough, the rest of the royal family didn't distrust, but also his sister trusted. So he was kind of a bridge in that way, because famously, Queen Victoria's mother, the Duchess of Kent, did not get on well with the rest of the British royal family.
Oh, really?
That's part of why she established the sort of infamous Kensington system, which is how she planned on raising her daughter, which is basically in complete isolation from the other members of the family.
Kensington as in Kensington Palace?
Palace, yes.
Why was it called that?
Because that was their residence.
No, Kensington. Where does the name come from?
That's the name of the house, the palace in London.
Oh, and so that's why they named that whatever her system was?
Yeah, okay. As members of the family, they were given a residence there.
Got it. Okay, I never heard of that before. The raising in isolation thing. That sounds like a terrible idea. But
I mean, not strict isolation, but basically just keeping her away from the other members of the family that she didn't like.
well, okay, maybe she was just protecting her from, troublesome characters.
Yes, but then there's also the issue of her relationship with a gentleman who sort of became her business manager, you could call it. But he became very controlling of both of them as time went on. And the rest of the royal family just thought of this as bad news. So, and
was it sort of a Rasputin sort of situation?
Not quite like that, but something around
that
those
story
lines.
I just shake my head.
Too much influence.
Oh my goodness.
Definitely, but no mystical connections.
We lost the charms and the crystals.
Yes,
or
and then of course
the
the main tell of this whole situation was that Queen Victoria pretty much always resented her mother for how she was raised and for letting the man, his name was John Conroy, the way that he treated them. So that's kind of a sign of what it was really like growing up in it. Yeah.
Okay, well, speaking of family matters, so Leopold did marry a second time, as we mentioned earlier.
Yes.
And again, I've mentioned this on multiple episodes. I am not good with French pronunciation, nothing. So is it Louise Marie of Orleans?
Yes.
Okay, that was easier than I thought.
You could say Orléans.
No.
Would be the French pronunciation. I'm not saying it like with the correct accent, but Orléans would be the
I will leave it
way
to
they
you.
would say it.
In any event, as I said, they were married in 1832 and they ended up having 4 children. Of course, I guess it was the second born actually that became Leopold II on his father's death. Is that right? Oh yeah, because the first child died as a baby, I guess.
Yes.
And
like we were saying about him being a marriage broker, before his own marriage, he's in some ways credited with setting up the marriage between Queen Victoria and Prince Albert.
Oh, that's very famous.
Both of them were his niece and nephew from different siblings, which is kind of gross.
It is.
But that was how they kind of got together. He encouraged his brother to send his 2 sons to England to get to know their cousin and see if one of them would be, attractive to her.
Well, we know that their marriage was, it was famously successful.
Yes.
It's still unsettling, but we're going to breeze past it. It's going to be okay. But what I want to talk about is their youngest child, Princess Charlotte of Belgium, who became the Empress of Mexico.
Yes. Upon her marriage, she changed her name to Carlotta to try to sound more, more
exotic.
No. So her husband was the Archduke of Austria. So she's moving to a whole different kind of place with the, Austrian Habsburg court and their slightly Spanish style court rules. So she just wanted to kind of fit in a little better.
I don't know a whole lot about her other than she kind of lost her marbles at some point.
Yes. So that happened a bit after her initial, her actual marriage. So she, by all accounts, was offered this marriage with the Archduke, who he's the younger brother of the future emperor of Austria. So he wasn't going to get a throne. He had some minor holdings in northern Italy, which that's basically all he had when he offered her, marriage. She accepted and moved to Italy with him. And she seems to have thought that it was going to be a much happier marriage than it turned out to be, because it seems like he put up a pretty good front when he was, courting her. But then afterward, he just kind of went off having affairs and drinking and just not really the best husband. So, like I said, a few years later, he was offered by the French to become the Emperor of Mexico. which they had decided was a good idea.
Why we're not sure.
Mexico an empire.
And
sure.
Then, isn't it true that at one point she was allowed to rule as regent during her husband's absences?
Yes.
Yeah, that's a little interesting.
So, like I said, very kind of weird combination of circumstances. Mm-hmm. France is in Mexico. They're trying to install an emperor, I guess, because it sounds more impressive or more French, because remember, this is Napoleon III. Mm-hmm. It's his government that's trying to do this. So they're told, oh, the people of Mexico, they're, so excited to have you come. It's basically just like what happened with her father. It's a country that has recently been liberated, and they're building this new government, and they just really want you to come and be the royal family for them. So they go to Mexico, and nobody is happy to see them except for the French people, who told them everyone in Mexico would be happy to see them.
I am utterly shocked. Words fail.
Yeah. So they come in, and they, by trying to be nice, instantly alienate all of the people who would have been their supporters. Mm-hmm. Because the people who wanted to bring in a royal family were the very hardcore Catholic conservatives, which were being opposed by the revolutionary forces led by Juarez. And when they came in, they're much more, liberal, and they want to, give freedoms to the people. And the big one was when they said they wanted to have freedom of religion in Mexico. So, like I said, they basically just took all the people who would have been their supporters and told them everything they didn't want to hear.
Oh my gosh. Speaking of things you didn't want to hear, as I said earlier, she kind of lost her noodle a little bit.
Yes.
And at one point, didn't she go back to Europe and kind of plead for, what was it, support, assistance?
Basically. So when they arrived, the French believed that they had the upper hand with the revolution. But like I said, since they kind of took the support out from under them, they lost ground to the revolutionaries. Mm-hmm. And they just kept losing battles. So finally, they decided that they would send Carlotta back to Europe to try to gather support and possibly, and military alliances if possible. So she goes back to Europe, and she tries her best, but no one's really taking any bites to her request, because literally the only people who were benefiting from this were the French, and they're already invested in Mexico. So it's a losing battle. So no one in her family can help. She tries going to Napoleon III. He's already put in as much as he's going to Mexico. They're getting ready to leave. Mm-hmm. And she just feels like she's failing, and that they're going to lose everything because she can't get help.
Right.
A lot of guilt that really she didn't need to carry.
Exactly. And it sounds like that's kind of what did her in, because it was during this kind of tour around looking for help that apparently she just kind of lost it, and was a doctor said, decided it was a good idea to confine her basically to this castle up in Italy somewhere. And it's funny because the story of what happened with her, it kind of reminds me just a little bit of, the story of Jane Eyre. Do you know the part that I'm talking about?
Yes. Yeah. The wife, the first wife,
that had gone crazy and was basically locked up in some, I don't know, upper room or whatever. Mm-hmm. Anyway, it's not exactly like that.
Not exactly, no.
And in any case, I know we're kind of going down a rabbit trail. It's just, she's interesting because the first time I ever heard of her, and this is going to sounds so weird. You know that old TV show, that old black and white TV show from the 60s, the Dick Van Dyke Show?
Yes.
Okay. There's an episode where Dick Van Dyke's character goes and buys this really gaudy, just kind of, over the top necklace for his wife, who's played by Mary Tyler Moore. Love her. But in any case, and the story is that it's a what's the word I'm looking for? A
reproduction
of one of Empress Carlotta's necklaces or whatever. The empress that went crazy, went mad or whatever.
Yes.
So that's the first time I ever heard of her. And I didn't know at the time. I thought it was just something made up for the show, but
real person.
A real person.
Fake necklace, but real person.
Yeah. So anyways, that's her story. I know that when she was, I guess, kind of under this house arrest or whatever and losing her mind, that her husband, Maximilian, was deposed and then executed by Juarez, and she didn't even know about it.
No.
Which is bizarre.
Yeah, one thing that she was known for later on when she was moved to another one of the family castles was that every year she would go down to a lake on the property on the anniversary of when she and her husband left for Mexico.
Mm-hmm.
And she would go down to the lake and then she'd tell anyone who she saw that day, today we're leaving for Mexico.
Aww.
Yeah, like she was stuck somewhere back there.
That's really sad.
Mm-hmm.
So I read that she was moved a couple of times, but then she settled at I can't pronounce this. It's a castle somewhere in Belgium, I guess. And she lived there for 48 years, and she didn't pass away until 1927.
Yes.
Imagine what a life. But we've kind of gone down a rabbit trail from who we were really supposed to be talking about, which is her father, Leopold I.
But it's all connected. We were going into the part about all of his family connections.
It's so interesting. You go down one branch and you're like, oh my goodness, it involves all of these people, and then the other side, it's all that That's what's so interesting to me about royal families and monarchy and all that. It's the historical importance of them, and then how connected they are.
Yes.
Even
so
if you're
like just Leopold I,
mm-hmm.
he became king of the Belgians. His daughter became the Empress of Mexico for however short a time. But his siblings, their children became, well, not just their children, but their descendants became the rulers of virtually every throne in Europe. Russia, the Habsburg Empire, Great Britain, Spain, Portugal, they married into every family.
See, and this is also where I think the mystery element of monarchy comes in, because these families, these dynasties have managed to last and to, and in some cases last a long period of time, or have such an incredible impact on the time in which they existed. And it just seems so implausible, like the way you just described it. One family being a part of the ruling houses of all those different places. Like that sounds like some kind of made up, I don't know, book or movie or something.
And they just started out as this family from this little duchy in Germany.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Not royalty to start with, no big connections, but then suddenly they just went everywhere.
Yeah, it's so fascinating to me. But in any case, Leopold, he, as we discussed, he remarried. He had his children, one of whom we spoke about. And what did he do with his later years? Anything to speak of? Because I know that I was reading about, and kind of in preparation for this, that his son, who took over from him, there seems to be a lot of controversy around him.
Yes. Leopold II is a very, I would say, polarizing figure, but I'd just generally say a very dark figure in the history of the Belgian royal family, for his involvement in the Congo in Africa and in the Belgian basically colonies there.
Right.
Yeah. So that's a very dark part of their history.
Leopold and Kate, the movie with Meg Ryan. I don't think it has anything to do with him at all. No. Nope. No. No. Now, oh gosh. Blew my train of thought. Yeah. Dang it. Anyways.
Yeah. So Leopold I, no major controversies in his later life.
It seems like he just kind of lived out quietly. And
I mean, they did begin to make Belgium more stable financially and connected to the rest of Europe. more an independent place, not, a dependency of some bigger country. So he succeeded in that. And he was able to pass the throne on to his successor without any kind of controversy. So pretty successful.
I would say so. That's not always the story with these people.
Yeah. And up until the end, he was still considered to be a close advisor to Queen Victoria and Prince Albert, to other members of his family, other nieces and nephews. So he was an important figure, even though he's just some guy that Belgians said, come and be our king. And yeah.
They gambled on that one, but I guess they
did pretty well.
They did well, yeah. Okay, so quickly before we wrap this up, is there any connection? I can't remember. Is there a because with the whole Greece thing, is there a connection with him and the late Prince Philip's family or no?
Well, I mean, they are related because
they're all related.
I said, the Coburgs married everybody, but not directly. No, actually, a Danish prince became the king of Greece, and then the families married afterwards.
Oh yeah, because it wasn't Prince Philip of Greece and Denmark, right?
Yes.
Which is such a strange combination.
Funny,
I mean, Greece and Denmark.
Yeah,
I can't think of two places more different seemingly. I don't know, but
and they were a funny family too. We need to do a podcast on them.
Oh, I'd love to,
because it was
Prince Philip was a very interesting guy,
a younger son from a royal house who took up the offer to become the king of Greece, and they went there, and I mean, at least the first generation, they became very invested in being, the royal family of Greece, and all patriotic and somewhat nationalistic, and it's just like, you're from Denmark.
Yeah.
Y'all just moved here.
What are you talking about?
Anyway, so they're an interesting family too.
How do you just go around applying to be the royal family of what do they do on Indeed, Monster, like ZipRecruiter? What are we talking about here? I didn't know there was a royal family category. Goodness. I jest a little bit. Anyways, well, this has been fun.
Yeah. So, I mean, a very interesting life. Someone who went through the revolutions, the Napoleonic Wars, marrying the British royal family, becoming a king, having, children who became kings and empresses, all sorts of things. And a very interesting part of history.
I'm surprised there's not a film made about him. There may be, and I'm not aware of it.
Not
but
that I know of.
I've looked for things like that. I go looking for movies about royals and monarchy and whatever. I don't know that I've ever come across one.
Yeah, I really wish there would make more movies about the, I guess, minor figures in history.
Yeah.
But the ones who were there for all these other events and who knew all of these other important people.
Right. It makes sense. Yeah. I would definitely love to see something like that. Anyways, I guess this brings us to the end for today.
Yeah.
What do you think?
That's it.
I'm proud of us that we got, I think we have recorded twice in the last 2 weeks, that's been unheard of for us lately. So that's great.
We're getting there.
Yeah, yeah.
Balancing work and recording and all the other things.
So many
but
things.
we're getting there.
Yeah. I think we should definitely do more episodes about the Belgians in the future. But I think probably next time we've discussed this, more than likely, we're going to be going to Japan.
Yes, moving into modern, like almost current history.
Exactly. Some may be aware of the story. I think a lot of people probably are not, because I don't know that there's a lot of, at least in the US, I've never sensed there's a lot of interest in the Japanese imperial family. But there is a very sweet little story we're going to be discussing probably in the next episode. It is something very much out of a movie. So
it is.
It's basically, like, you could make that into a movie and not have to change anything.
Specifically.
Yeah. So I think that's what we're going to be doing 2000s. Next. But
yeah.
Anyway.
I think that would be very interesting, like kind of a shift. Going modern, completely different part of the world, an imperial family.
Yes.
So yeah, I'm excited.
Yeah, looking forward to it. Okay, well, thanks for being here, everyone. We appreciate it. Thanks for taking your time with us, as always. If you have suggestions, because this entire episode was done off of a listener request, I should say, get in touch with us. As I said, we're on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, TikTok, YouTube. Take your pick. We don't bite. Reach out, let us know, and we'd be happy to do episodes on different countries, families, time periods in history. We enjoy all of it. But thanks for listening. Thanks for being here. We'll see you next time.
Bye.
The Royal Chronicles is written and produced by Hanna and Luke Haney. Executive producer Mustafa Mohana.